You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. You're in the car line, the kind where the line doesn't really move, but your nervous system absolutely does. Your phone buzzes, it's an email from the school, and the subject line reads, reading support / next steps. It's polite, professional. It uses the word team like it's trying to tuck you into bed, and then you see it. We'd like to discuss concerns about reading progress and consider an evaluation. And your stomach drops. That sinking in the belly feeling, because your brain doesn't go to, okay, great, a plan. Your brain goes to, is my kid in trouble? Are they going to retain him? Did I miss something? Is this my fault? Do I need to quit my job and become, I don't know, a reading monk? And now you're trying to do normal life. There's snacks, laundry, dinner, after-school activities. Well, part of you is stuck on that one sentence. If that's you, you're not dramatic, you're not behind, you can feel the stakes. So in this episode, we're going to translate what's happening and what to do next without spiraling. Because you deserve a plan, not a panic spiral. Okay, take a deep breath with me. Let's get you oriented, and then we'll walk through this step by step. Hi, I'm Dr. Amy, school psychologist and parent coach, and this is Psych to Parent for parents of strong-willed, big feeling, big-hearted kiddos. In this episode, we're talking about the kindergarten through second grade evaluation when reading isn't clicking. Here's what you're going to leave with. What schools usually measure when reading is a concern in normal language. What an evaluation can and cannot tell you. The dyslexia questions that matter when kids are in kindergarten through about second grade. And what to ask before retention becomes the storyline. And scripts you can use without writing a dissertation in the parking lot. And if your brain is already trying to race ahead to, wait, is this dyslexia? Is this forever? Did we wait too long? Let's talk about what parents are actually asking under the surface. Parents think they're asking a technical question. Do we need testing? Is it dyslexia? Will they retain my child? But underneath, a lot of you are asking, is something wrong with my kid? Or is the school wrong fit for my kid? Are we missing something? And will it get worse if we wait? Will this label my kid or finally explain them? Will we actually get a plan that changes day-to-day life? So let me anchor this clearly. There is nothing wrong with your child. And also, reading struggles can feel like a crisis because reading touches everything. Confidence, school identity, family stress, future worry. And when reading isn't clicking, it's not just about academics. It's dinner table vibes. It's bedtime. It's the way your child talks about themselves. It's the way you start bracing for that next school email. So we're going to get specific without getting scary. And the most calming thing we can do right now is name what reading actually means for students who are in kindergarten through about second grade. In K-2 classrooms, reading is not one skill. It's a stack of things. Most of the time, we're looking at three big buckets. The first one is decoding and word reading. That's your child being able to get the words off the page. This is the how do we turn letters into sounds and sounds into words part. The second piece we often talk about is fluency. Fluency is reading accurately and smoothly enough that the brain can breathe. Fluency is what frees up mental energy so your child isn't using 100% of their brain power just to get through a sentence. Comprehension is understanding what you read. This is making meaning. It's connecting ideas, recalling details, drawing conclusions. But comprehension depends on the other pieces working well enough. And here's your same kids, different math reminder. A child can be incredibly bright and still struggle with decoding. A child can understand stories beautifully when you read them to them and then still struggle reading independently. A child can be articulate and curious and still need very explicit instruction to build that pathway. So when you hear the school or your child's teacher say below level, your best question is below level in what specifically? Because reading is not one thing, and the plan depends on which part is hard. Okay, so if someone told you your car isn't working, you'll be like, okay, cool. Is it the battery, the engine, the gas, the key fob? Like, don't say to me, the car isn't working. Hand me the part that isn't working. Reading is the same. And once you understand the stack, the word evaluation becomes less scary. It's not, quote, something's wrong. It's we need clarity about which part of the stack is jammed. So let's do the school psych translation. Okay, here's the school psych in your back pocket kind of vibe I want to give you. When a school says evaluation, what they should mean is not, let's generate a report. Lord knows we don't need more reports in our lives. It should mean, let's answer some very specific questions about your child's learning style and turn it into a plan. And here's my slightly spicy truth. Psychoeducational testing, which is what I do in my practice, it gets oversold as this magical answer for kids and reading difficulties. And I think it's undersold as a practical tool. A good psychoeducational evaluation should help you develop a roadmap for success for your child. A good evaluation is a translation. Why is reading hard for this kid? And then, what do we do differently starting on Monday morning? Because if it doesn't change what happens on Monday morning, whether it's at home or school, it wasn't used well. A quality psychoeducational evaluation is usually built from multiple sources of data. There's parent input. You are the expert on your child. Teacher input. They have expertise oftentimes in pedagogy, classroom behavior management systems, academic intervention. There's school data and work samples. There's intervention history and progress monitoring data. There's child-friendly testing sessions and a feedback meeting that explains everything in plain language and turns it into next steps for you. Something that I do in my clinical practice that I know is different than some of my fellow school psychologists in private practice is I also like to make sure I offer parents the opportunity to have a family school partnership meeting. Meaning, if I do the evaluation, I offer as part of my comprehensive evaluation services to meet with the school to help decode and translate a dense 30-page report into actionable items that a school can use, because really the goal is to set your child up for success. I think something that comes up with parents when it comes to having these questions and talks about evaluations is you feel like you're kind of stuck. And I want to tell you very clearly, you don't have to choose between, quote, being nice and asking for specifics. You can be warm and collaborative and still clear. While you're waiting, because nobody has time for the holding pattern that happens with schools, here are the Monday morning questions that keep things moving. What exact skill are we targeting right now? Is it sound awareness, letter sound links, decoding, fluency, reading comprehension? What intervention is being used? What's the dosage? How many minutes per week? How big's the group? How are you monitoring my child's progress? How often? And when will we review the data together? This is the adult-proof plan filter, like specific, measurable, and scheduled. And I want to give you a 60 to 90-second cheat sheet because school teams use phrases that sound soothing, but they can be incredibly vague. Let's translate them into parent power. Here are a few phrases translated into parent power. The school says, "We'll do interventions." Your response can be, "Great. Which intervention? What dosage? What skill?" The school might say, "We'll monitor progress." Awesome. That's perfect. What are you measuring? How often? And when will we review it together? The school might say, "He has so much potential." Cool. What's the barrier between potential and output? School can say, "Bright kid, but," and you can say, "We don't have the why yet. Let's get curious instead of judgmental." Oh gosh. And this one I cannot stand when schools say this. And if you hear it, this is like so triggering for me. I hate it when schools say this. And if you hear it, I want you to be able to have a script that you can immediately respond with. When schools say, "Let's give it time," you can say, "Totally. And what instruction changes during that time?" Now let's take this out of a meeting speak and into your real life because you're not dealing with data points. You're dealing with a child who is tired in a household that still has to function at 5 o'clock. Here's a kid you might recognize. Your first grader can explain a movie plot like a film critic. Big vocabulary, lots of curiosity. But when it's time to read, they guess, they avoid, they get tired quickly, they melt down. They suddenly need water. They suddenly need water like they're crossing the Sahara. And you're thinking to yourself, "We read every night. Why isn't this sticking?" Here's my gentle hot take. If the problem is decoding and we treat it like motivation, we create shame in our child. If the problem is instructional match and we treat it like, quote, more time, we create burnout. Let me paint the scene. If after school your kid is toasted, backpack hits the floor like a mic drop, you say, "Okay, let's do your reading," and suddenly they're upside down on the couch. They're bargaining like a tiny lawyer. They're melting down. They say, "I can't," or "I hate reading," or "You hate me," because that escalated really quickly. And you're sitting there thinking, we're not even to the book, and my child is already in this nervous system emergency right now. So here's what I want you to know. That reaction doesn't mean they're stubborn. It often means they've been working so hard all day to hold it together around something that feels hard and public. And that leads directly into the reframe because the behavior is communication, especially for big feeling kids. If your child is avoiding reading or melting down around it, they may not be telling you, "I don't care." They may be telling you, "This feels hard in my body. I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to feel dumb. I'm working so hard, and it still doesn't feel easier. I'm scared you'll be disappointed in me." So before we even get to testing, this is your regulating anchor. I use this all the time in my private practice when I have feedback sessions with parents. Your child is a diamond. And when we think about diamonds, they're rare, precious, loved, multifaceted. School is zooming in on one facet right now. Our job is to polish that facet without dimming the rest of who they are. And this is where I'll say it again. Reading is not a character test. Reading is not proof of effort. Reading is not proof of intelligence. Reading is a set of skills. Skills are teachable. And when we match instruction to the skill, we change the story. Now, I want to talk about the elephant that tends to wander into these conversations. Dyslexia questions and sometimes retention. And we're going to handle both of these with the same recipe: clarity, data, and a plan. Let's start with the dyslexia question. In early elementary school, what matters most is not, do we have the perfect label right this second? What matters most is, do we understand the pattern of difficulty, and are we delivering explicit, targeted instruction for that pattern? So if you're wondering about dyslexia, here are the questions that actually help. Is my child struggling most with phonological awareness? That's being able to hear and manipulate sounds. Are they struggling with letter sound connections? Are they struggling with decoding, like sounding out words accurately? Is the difficulty showing up consistently, even with the extra practice and support? What does progress monitoring data show us over time? Those questions keep you focused on what the brain is doing, not just what the report is called. Now let's talk about retention. Retention is when we have children repeat a grade that they've already done. If someone even hints at retention, I want you to picture a stop sign, not to be combative, but to be grounded. Because repeating a grade cannot be the whole plan. Ooh, I'll die on this hill, you guys. I'll go to battle over this one. Retention is not an intervention. Time is not an intervention. Time is a calendar. So your key questions become, what changes besides time? Here are the questions that matter if retention is mentioned. What interventions have been used? What program? What skill target? How often? How long? What progress monitoring data do we have? Show me the trend line. If my child repeats, what will be different instructionally next year besides repeating content? How will you protect confidence and reduce shame while skills build? You are allowed to ask those questions. You're allowed to ask them twice. You're allowed to ask them even if your voice shakes. And if it feels scary as a parent to sit in those meetings where teachers and educators seem like they have the expertise on all the things, I want you to remember you are an expert on your child. Your voice matters, and your job is to advocate for your kiddo. And if you ever need a pep talk when you go into a meeting like this with the school, reach out. I'm happy to give you some kudos, some brave words, because sometimes going into a school meeting, it can feel like you're preparing for battle. Not that we're going in purposely to be confrontational, but it raises our emotional sense of things. It's hard. Now that you have the content and some context, I want to give you actual words that you can use. Short scripts, calm scripts, scripts that don't require a personality or a 12-page email. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, script number 1. We want to clarify the skill and the plan. You can say something like this. Can we clarify which specific reading skills are hardest right now? What intervention is being used? What's the dosage? What does the progress data show us so far? Script number 2. Request an evaluation without overlabeling. I'm not attached to a label. I'm attached to understanding why reading isn't clicking and what instruction will help. What questions should the evaluation answer? Script number 3. Retention slowdown. Before we discuss retention, I want to understand the intervention plan and progress data. What would be different next year besides time? Script number 4. My child is starting to feel like reading means I'm bad at school. What supports can we put in place immediately to reduce overload while skills build? If you want to make these even easier to say, especially if you're in a meeting with the school, write them on a sticky note. Bring it. Read it. You don't have to perform eloquently under stress. Now let's make this actionable without becoming a whole new project. Tiny wins, a few moves that reduce chaos and create clarity fast. All right, here are your tiny wins. You don't need to do them all. Pick one. Tiny win number 1, dot log for 7 days. 1 sentence each day, what was hard and what helped. Tiny win number 2, bring 2 work samples to the meeting so you can show one that was easy and one that was hard for your kiddo. Tiny win number 3, put 3 questions on a sticky note. You don't need to write a novel, and you can bring it to your meeting. Tiny win number 4, reset before requests after school with your kiddo. Have a snack, drink of water, 10 minutes to decompress, then start reading. Tiny win number 5, here's 1 sentence for your child. This isn't pass or fail. This is to learn what helps your brain. Pick one. 1 is enough. And before we wrap up, I want you to aim for the right tiny win, not perfection. Here's a reflection question to keep you focused on what matters. If reading felt easier in 8 weeks, what would you notice first? Less dread, less shutdown, more confidence, more willingness? That's what we're aiming for. If this episode hit home, make sure you join my Tiny Wins email list. It's short, practical, and built for tired parents who want supports that actually fit in real life. And if you know a parent who is currently living that reading support, next steps email kind of moment, send them this episode. Share it with a friend who needs the words for that school meeting. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't have to remember to come back and find the next episode. Before I let you go, if you're sitting with that tight chest feeling from the reading support next steps email, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not behind. You're responding to something that matters, and your body knows it. That's not weakness. That's love plus stakes. And your kid is not a problem to be solved. They're a whole, bright, complex human whose brain is building a skill that happens to be very public at school. Reading is not a character test. It's not proof of effort. It's not a measure of worth. It's skills, and skills are teachable. So here's the plan you can hold on to the next time your mind wants to sprint to worst-case scenarios. We slow it down with specific skills, specific instruction, and specific data. We refuse time as the whole intervention. We protect confidence while we build capacity. And we keep coming back to what changes on Monday morning. And if your voice shakes in the meeting, you can still say the sentence. If you don't know the acronym, you can still ask the question. If you're tired, you can still take one tiny step. Pick one is enough. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white-knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low-stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big-feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.